Hey everyone, AlmondWalrus here, and in today's video I'm going to show how I beat the solo Behemoth Crash using a team that I think is definitely not a whale team, and hopefully a little bit more accessible to at least some of the player base. This is a really tough fight, and I think the first thing you'll see here is that I have a very geared out Vincent. So I did pull heavily on the Vincent Limit Break banner to get OB10 White Dog. This allows Vincent to be essentially the solo DPS in this fight. Without it, without an OB10 White Dog, I don't think I'd be able to clear this fight. So, if you don't have that, it would likely require pulling on the current Sephiroth banner to get a sub DPS for Earth. But because I have OB10 White Dog, I'm able to use this team composition. So definitely, Vincent's doing a lot of heavy lifting here, but I think as we dive in, you'll see this isn't a whale team. It just has a really good Vincent. So with that, let's start with him. So we have an OB10 White Dog. This is the primary point of damage, and it also has an M attack all buff for the party, although really that's really only for Vincent. The other two characters are not actually doing too much meaningful damage. In his offhand here, I have Chiron, however you want to pronounce it, that allows him to debuff Earth resistance to boost his damage, and it also has pretty solid R abilities. I also have him in his Earthblade Arcanum costume. This gives him reprieve, which is necessary to the strategy I have while also boosting his damage. And I'm using Chaos Rampage, which is, in my opinion, the best limit break here for this fight, which you'll see in a moment why that is. For the materia, I'm using Stat Sticks primarily for magic attack and HP. This is to get him as much DPS as possible and also to get him to survive the boss's attacks. In the last slot here, I'm using a triangle sigil break because you do need to break triangle sigils in the fight. And his is boosted by White Dog to be able to break up to 5 sigils, which is pretty crucial. Now, his stats have 7,000 M attack, which is what I needed in order to barely meet the DPS requirements of this fight. And I've also optimized his defense, both physical and magic, in conjunction with his HP, so that he barely survives every big boss attack. I don't have the luxury of being able to max his HP, defense, and do enough damage, and so I needed to optimize to get him as low defense, HP, and magic defense as possible in order for him to survive, and thus allowing me to boost his DPS as much as possible so I can milk every ounce of damage out of him. On his subs, he has Power Soul to give him HP and magic ability potency. He has Lucia's Holiday Revolver to give him Earth Potency and Magic Attack. And then we have Jiggy Fam, which this is not really the ideal weapon here. If you have Lucia's Earth Potency weapon, it's better, I think, in every respect. But unfortunately, I don't have it, so I have to use an OB6 Jiggy Fam, which is the best that I have. In conjunction, this gives him Reprieve and Earthblade Arcanum from his costume. He has level 8 boost Earth Potency. He has max boost Magic Attack, level 3 buff debuff extension, level 3 HP, level 3 Magic Ability Potency. And then you'll see when I get to the other characters, but I have a boost M attack all weapon on each character to give Vincent more damage. And then on Red 13, I also have his guild weapon to boost magic defense, which allows Vincent to then not have to worry about stacking that himself, and thus more damage. So moving to Red 13, as I mentioned, his guild weapon here plays a big role. Now, it's not critical. If you have a team that does more damage or you have a sub DPS, then you could likely get away with not having this, but I don't have that, so I need this weapon to survive. And it gives him level 4 magic defense up on all allies, which boosts everyone by 30%. That's pretty critical. So that's 25 points, and this gives him 27. We don't actually use the ability, and the boost ice resistance is irrelevant for this fight. What Red 13 is primarily doing is lowering magic attack. So by having Junk Collar, it allows him to lower the Behemoth's magic attack in one shot by high. If you don't have this OB6, I don't think the ATB management is going to let you get away with having to use this attack twice. So I think OB6 is pretty much a requirement with this build. His materia here is primarily stat sticks, so I'm using a combination of boosting healing, some HP, some defense. Here it's the triangle sigil break to help with the fight because we need to break those sigils. And then he has a cure in his third slot because his guild weapon allows him to heal all. Now, that's not the only weapon that does it. Again, you don't need the guild weapon, but having Red 13 off heal was important for me to survive. I'm using his Hellhound costume, not because the second ability matters, but the boost HP is helpful, and I don't have a better costume for Red. And then I'm using Sledfang as his limit break. Now here, this is for 2 points in the fight to lower the boss's P attack so that I can survive. Without the mid P attack down, which I don't have the ability to do on any of my characters other than Sledfang, at least with this team comp, my team would wipe. So this is critical. I save that for 2 specific points in the fight. On the sub-equipment, I have Sephiroth's limit break weapon. This gives M attack all to Vincent. I have the Chocobo Staff, which is a free weapon, a free event weapon to boost healing and magic defense. And then I have an Obi-10 Buster Sword. This is primarily to boost HP, but then I felt that the attack would be helpful just to, again, milk every ounce of damage possible. I suspect, if I thought long and hard, I probably could find a better weapon for this third slot, but this was what came to mind, and it was what worked for me. Last but not least, let's go to Matt. So Matt is the main healer for this fight, and I'm using an OB4 Centipede to achieve that. Not that great, it's not OB6, but it does the trick. This heals and also boosts physical defense by mid to the whole party, which is critical for surviving a ton of the attacks. In his offhand, I'm using Core Defender. This is to use Amulet Tribute to give high magic defense to the whole party. Again, you don't need OB9, but I think you definitely need OB6. If you had to use this ability twice, or make do with a mid boost on magic defense, it's gonna nuke your DPS because you're gonna have to rebalance the stats on the other team. So for me, it was vital that this does high in one move. On the materia, I mainly aimed for heal, so there's stat sticks that I have with the most healing on them, so that was 10.2%, here's 8.1, and then I have a triangle sigil break as well. Every person needs to be able to break triangles to be able to meet the timer here. I'm using Matt's free-ish costume. This is the one from the Gear Exchange. I don't have a better costume for Matt. I wish I did have that healing coat. It would have been better, but I don't. And then I'm using Gigantic Shield as his limit break. This is at one point in the fight, because of the way the ATB and timing works, I can't get physical defense up in time, and so the limit break is what I save for that moment to survive the attack. His sub-equipment is a combination of boosting healing, so I use Guard Stick, which is my best boost heal weapon. I'm using Zack's limit break weapon here just for the M attack all boost on Vincent. And then this is what I ended up picking just for the HP. So again, you don't need to use this, but this was the weapon I had with the most HP on it. The physical ability potency matters not at all in this fight. And so with that, this is the team that I'm using for the Crash. It's a really tough fight. It requires a ton of micromanagement and a little bit of luck. And it took me a ton of attempts, but you'll see how I pilot this team to get to a victory. All right, let's jump right in. So we're going to start here by switching to Red. I'm going to wait to use Quake until Vincent debuffs. There we go. And we'll cast Quake. And then I'm going to switch to Vincent to make sure that the AI doesn't preemptively attack without the command gauge full. I need to get every bit of DPS out of this. Now it's full. I use Sludge Shot and then switch back to Red 13. Here the AI does us a solid and debuffs and buffs MDef for us. But we need to just defend the attack here, and you'll see we're going to survive barely. And now we heal up, and then I switch to Vincent, again to make sure that the AI isn't using an attack before the gauge is maxed. So here I wait till it maxes, use it once, and then queue up the next one, and then switch back to Red 13 to heal. The AI heals on Matt, thankfully. And now we're going to debuff the Behemoth, and also get ready to buff our own defense. So first Frenzied Fang, and then we'll switch to Matt, and we'll use Amulet Tribute here. And then we wait to switch to defense stance right at the very last moment possible. Reason for that is we're going to survive this attack, but I don't actually have enough health and defense to survive the next Generate Flames attack that comes up, and we don't have healing, So I have to wait in defense stance here, and now I can switch. You can see Vincent survived with 65 HP. That's how close this is. Now we're in a sigil phase here, so it's pretty straightforward. We're just going to break sigils. The AI sometimes likes to hold back ATB, so I'm going to switch to make sure it goes off and we don't get hit. And now we're healing up while I let the AI attack with Vincent. Now I'm going to switch to Vincent here after this heal to make sure that I get Sage Shot off, because it's critical that the Behemoth is debuffed for Earth. And part of that is because now we're going into the Outrage bar where we need to break it. So here I'm going to defend against the first attack and heal, and then I'm going to sit on Vincent here to build ATB and use his limit break to animation cancel. Right now. So this is going to give him 4 tiers of magic attack, which is critical for breaking this bar. It's going to take 2 more attacks here, so I'm going to queue up 1 real quick, then switch to Matt and heal and defend against the attack. Now back to Vincent, wait for the gauge to fill, and then go again. And now we switch to Matt to get ready to defend against the last attack that's going to go off, which is now. Let's heal, and now we're into the DPS phase. So wait for it, and here we go. Now it's just switching between Red 13 and Vincent, casting Quake and Sludge Shot to do as much damage as humanly possible. This is one of 2 DPS phases where you're going to do the bulk of your damage. So pretty straightforward, just switching back and forth, being mindful here of the Earth debuff that just fell off, and now Vincent's M attack buff also fell off from his limit break. So we're going to debuff the Behemoth instead, get that Earth debuff back on, and now we get ready for this next phase where the Behemoth is going to charge up an attack that does a little bit of damage, but does debuff your physical defense. So it's critical here to time it with Recovery Circle. So you're seeing here, he's about to do a spin attack. I'm going to defend and then rebuff the physical defense. And then just wait, he's going to do 1 more before the triple strike. Here we go, defend and buff defense. And you're going to see the timing here is super tight. I need to use Sledge Fang right at the last second to debuff physical attack, because otherwise my team doesn't survive this. Okay, now we switch to defense stance, and you'll see that my team barely survives. And by team, I really mean Vincent. Vincent's the one that's the most fragile one. And now we switch to Vincent and hold. Now here, the AI cured, so I switched to attack stance because I actually want Vincent to be in the red zone for his health, so that when his limit break goes off, he gets haste. If the AI doesn't heal, I can just sit in defense stance instead. So now we're going to wait. We're going to wait. I'm hoping that the AI breaks it so Vincent can save ATB for DPS, and they do. So now I use his limit break, and you're going to see in addition to buffing his magic attack, he's going to get haste here, which is going to boost the DPS considerably. So now it's quickly using Vincent, switching to Matt to heal, back to Vincent to make sure that you're getting full gauge DPS, back to Matt to heal, and then back to Vincent again. Now, this fight requires a ton of micromanagement unless you're a whale and have a perfect account, in which case you have a lot of room for error, but sadly my team does not. So here he's going into another triple strike slam phase, and so the same thing as before. He's going to debuff our defense. We need to keep our health topped off and also buff our defense back. He's going to do it again. And now this time in addition to Sled Fang, I'm going to use Gigantic Shield to make sure that I get the defense buff up. Otherwise, again, Vincent will die. Or to be precise, his reprieve will trigger early, and then the run's basically over because I need the reprieve for later. So again, we're going to defend here. Vincent's going to survive with a sliver of health. And now we get ready for another outrage phase. Now here I'm waiting until the ATB goes all the way maxed, because I'm trying to time it so that the first attack actually hits that bar like you just saw. This allows us to break it in 2 attacks, which is pretty critical for keeping the damage down. We're going to get hit here. I'm actually taking that full on in attack stance because again, I want haste to trigger when I use Chaos Rampage here. So I'm going to debuff because unfortunately the Earth debuff fell off. and that's now going to open the door for me to Chaos Rampage. And you'll see I screwed up. By using Sage Shot there, my HP wasn't high enough and didn't trigger. So that's a big miss. Hopefully it does not cost me, but that was a pretty big slip up. Just shows you how much is going on in this fight and how much you need to think about. Now I'm going to debuff. This time it's actually going to work, but it's cost me precious damage. And I'm trying to make up for it here. Luckily Vincent still has a ton of M attack up. And the Behemoth is taking damage, and now we've hit the enrage timer, so this Meteor is going to do 200,000 damage. So there's really no point defending on it, so I am desperately trying to burn him down, even if it means Matt poking him for 700 damage. Keep switching back and forth, doing whatever I can. This is going to be close. May as well use Sled Fang here as well. Every point of damage counts, even if it's 4,000. Alright, here comes the Meteor. It's going to do a casual 200,000 to each character. Okay, and Vincent is the only one left. Now here, reminder, the Behemoth has a final attack that's going to wipe you if you don't finish him off with a Limit Break or a Summon. So I'm trying to make sure that I leave him with a sliver of health. Okay, there we go. That's about as close as it's going to get. Here we go. Oh man, that feels good. There you go. That's how you beat this fight without a whale account. A ton of min-max optimization, a ton of micromanagement, and I even missed that Sage Shot earlier that cost probably about 100,000 damage. So not bad, not bad. Well, hopefully this helped. Like and subscribe if you want more of this content, and I'll be back with more difficult fights.